Well, let's talk about this first of all with my guest joining me throughout the show all the way to 1 o'clock, editor of Spiked Online, Tom Slater. Good morning to you.
Morning, Julia.
Yeah, we are going to start with international affairs. Shall I play a quick clip of this press conference yesterday? Because let's face it, most people aren't sitting there watching or listening to non-stop 24-hour news. They've actually, lives, jobs, kids to pick up from school, supermarket shops, that sort of thing. But this was the press conference that Donald Trump gave alongside Benjamin Netanyahu after we found out that Netanyahu had, let's face it, I'm sure he didn't want to, been forced to make a phone call to the Emir of Qatar to apologise for bombing terrorist leaders in his country. Not a phone call I would have been willing to make, but it was the prelude to something very big, the 20-point plan. Here is what Donald Trump had to say in typical understatement.
This is a big, big day, a beautiful day, potentially one of the great days ever in civilization. And most importantly, we discussed how to end the war in Gaza, but it's just a part of the bigger picture, which is peace in the Middle East. And let's call it eternal peace in the Middle East.
As I said, really not underplaying that. And here's what Benjamin Netanyahu had to say about the plan.
I support your plan to end the war in Gaza, which achieves our war aims. It will bring back to Israel all our hostages, dismantle Hamas's military capabilities, end its political rule, and ensure that Gaza never again poses a threat to Israel.
I mean, what's not to like? And yet Tom Slater, I say that the pro-Palestinian crowd, remarkably quiet today about it. Talk us through what this plan actually is.
So there is this roadmap to end the war via this 20-point plan, and the key part of it for certainly the hostages' families in Israel was the fact that within 72 hours you would have the release of the remaining hostages dead or
all
alive.
of them, none of this drip-drab, one at a time.
Exactly. Then you've got the question of Hamas, which Benjamin Netanyahu was touching on there. Essentially, it should have no role in the future governance of Gaza under this plan, but somewhat confusingly, those who are willing to lay down arms and commit to peace can carry on unencumbered, but anyone who wants to flee, exactly, under an amnesty, there will then be this essentially kind of transitional authority that will sort of have a kind of technocratic government by Palestinians, but also kind of outside experts, so-called, who will be shepherding the fledgling territory into its next sort of phase.
And among those experts
is Tony Blair. If you're talking about eternal peace in the Middle East, he's probably not the person you would go to.
Wonder, yes.
But nevertheless, he would be, again, one of the people who would be presiding over this transitional arrangement to a kind of future settlement.
Well, the solution is probably digital ID cards.
Absolutely.
If only Gaza had digital ID cards.
None of this would have ever happened.
Yeah, I'm just saying.
So we look forward to Tony Blair's
Sorry, I shouldn't make light of this.
No,
I mean,
exactly.
People are dying. By the way, on both sides.
No, absolutely.
But
and that's the question as well, is that you can have a press conference and announce a peace plan. Obviously, the Israelis have buy-in now. Various of the Arab states have said that they are taking it in good faith. Even Hamas are pretending to take it in good faith. But whether or not this actually survives contact with a very difficult reality on the ground is what we
The difference here is this plan, there's been lots of different plans, lots of different hostage deals and things like that on the cards with Qatar getting involved. Key thing here is Qatar have had a little bit of a wake-up call that, oh, by the way, you're no longer able to just operate with impunity harbouring terrorists. Ain't going to work for you anymore. Emir of Qatar, I don't know how safe he feels these days, given the reach of Israeli forces. They've been protected all this time. Now, of course, Donald Trump got his plane from Qatar, so he wants nicey. So that phone call Netanyahu made, I think, was very, very much a part of this. We're told that the Qataris, along with, we've got the Saudis, the UAE and others, Egyptians are all on board, and they're going to be supporting this plan. But I think what's crucial about this is, if Hamas don't want to sign up, fine. OK, you don't want to sign up, but now we've established who wants peace and who doesn't want peace. By the way, this is something that would have been obvious to anyone paying attention at any point in the last almost 2 years. But OK, you don't want peace, fine. Well, we're just going to carry on then. And Donald Trump, who's the only person who really matters in the West in terms of the financing and the political support for Israel, basically says, I'll give you free rein, finish the job, and therefore Netanyahu can carry on. Now, this is going to be very, very popular in Israel. Friend and foe alike of Netanyahu in Israel are being very supportive of this plan. If it does come off, surely this is a win for the Palestinian people. I mean, we're looking at, we're told that they are under the cosh of Hamas, and of course they don't like them. Well, great, then they're free of Hamas. tick, what's not to like? There's going to be a massive reconstruction programme, billions will be pouring in from other Arab states. I mean, and they're not forced to leave the land, crucially. If they do leave, they'll be able to come back. I mean, tick, what's not to like? And OK, the idea that you're going to have this sort of British protectorate, international protectorate, ring like, Tony Blair back involved in well, yeah, but that's because if it's not Hamas, and we can't have elections because you're going to elect Hamas, and it can't be the Palestinian Authority because that's run by Fatah, and if they had an election, it would be run by Hamas, that's not going to work. I mean, this is a great deal for the Palestinian people. If you genuinely believe that the Palestinian people are innocents who are currently facing mass starvation, currently facing genocide, all of these three things, by the way, provably untrue, and that they are under the cosh of Hamas. What's not to like about this deal, other than a sliver of territory around the Gaza border, which they lose to a buffer zone? And by the way, having been within a kilometre of the Gaza border, does not seem to me to be remotely unreasonable, given what happened on October the 7th.
And it's one of those things where this deal, whether there be specific parts of it that we could quibble or argue about, it does kind of call various people's bluff, doesn't it? In relation to Hamas, obviously, who, as I say, are claiming to be listening thoughtfully to this proposal, but this is an organisation which is committed itself to essentially a kind of never-ending jihad against Israel. Do you really think that they're going to say, you know what, we've had our fun, we've done as much as we can, it's now time to get round the negotiating table? Doesn't really stretch. And also, I suppose it does leave open the question, because the kind of medium term, the future of Gaza is very much conceived, as you say, as this kind of protectorate, as this sort of thing that's going to be presided over by a quite technocratic government. It reminds you of the question of, in terms of a longer term piece, that also probably requires something to happen within Palestinian civil society for leadership to emerge who are willing to put to bed this dangerous fantasy that you're going to destroy the state of Israel. And it's not entirely clear that any of those figures exist, which is precisely why the arrangements they're talking about are as technocratic and, as you say, colonial as they sound.
Yeah, I mean, it's absolutely fascinating. I mean, it's 725 days since those hostages were taken. I mean, that's, I would say, having been in Israel recently, the number one priority is getting the hostages back. It is the awaking obsession of every person in Israel. Everyone knows someone who was impacted by what happened on October the 7th. So, I mean, it is fascinating. I'd love to hear your thoughts, whether or not you think this is a good plan, whether this plan will work, crucially. What role Tony Blair can have in this arrangement. I mean, look, he is a player, I think he may overestimate his ability in being the man behind the deal, as does Donald Trump. His idea of the art of the deal. I mean, he's not managed to do it. Putin, Kim Jong-un, and that. He doesn't actually seem to be that good at those things. I don't think he's really that good at doing property deals either, to be honest with you. Evidence in terms of his finances over the years. But, I think there are a lot of people right now who, because it's Donald Trump, because it's Netanyahu, absolutely not interested. Yeah. And because actually bringing about the end to the war and helping the reconstruction of Gaza for Palestinian people without being led by terrorist fanatic lunatics isn't actually what they want. It's not actually what they're concerned about. What they actually want is the destruction of Israel, destruction of the West, and they think that Netanyahu and Israel and Donald Trump as combined as one are just the evil axis, and they actually don't give two hoots about the innocent civilians of Palestine. I had some silly bin on my tube on the way to work this morning who sort of, tapped on me to say, "You should be ashamed of yourself," she said, straight out of Central Casting. "You should be ashamed of yourself of supporting Israel." I'm like, well, you should be ashamed of yourself supporting Hamas terrorists. Sod off. Do one. I mean, it's just like, give me a break, love.
They're not interested in peace, are they?
But well done, because when you got to the canteen carrying a Guardian under the arm, you were able to tell everyone how incredibly stunning and brave you were with that awful woman from the radio. I mean, pathetic, utterly pathetic. She wanted to have a conversation with me about it. I would have had a conversation, but she waited until she was about to get off, because then she got to say her piece. I mean, these people are deluded. I said, "You're not happy about the peace plan then?" And she just left.
She probably wasn't aware of it, to be honest with you.
You make a fair point. So I want to hear your thoughts on this. Give us a call. 0344 499 1000, text 87222, get in touch on X at Talk TV. Let's also talk about Keir Starmer's speech, because I suppose contractually we probably have to.
I've barely been able to sleep with the anticipation, so...
Was it Tony... Keir Starmer's speech Eve last night.
But if you can't sleep, Starmer's speech is also a good solution to that. So we look forward to this afternoon.
No, here's my call in. Call in and tell me what he's going to say in his speech so I don't have to bother pretending to care. 02444 999 1000. Do your job. Don't just sit there passively listening or watching us on YouTube. Please save me from having to read the notes I've got again about what this godforsaken empty vessel of a pointless man who's blancmange in Brill cream is going to say on the stage today in Liverpool. Here we go. I'm going to try and get through. I'm going to read this version from one of the telly newspapers. So Keir Starmer will today announce a major overhaul of the NHS, promising an online hospital. You bored yet? Wake up! Wake up! Wake up, everybody. Promising an online hospital that would deliver millions of extra appointments and help cut long waiting times as he outlines his vision for a fairer Britain. It will launch in 2027, 2 years away. Can I just say, we're a first world country. It's the 21st century. I mean, we've been booking restaurants online. We've been booking, holidays online, taxi service online. Finally, we're going to be able to see a hospital consultant online in anywhere in the country rather than someone who happens to be attached to our local hospital or happen to attach to our local GP. I mean, well done us.
It's very Keir Starmer, though, isn't it? If you think about a country roiled by questions of immigration, you've got an economy which is still in the doldrums, you've got soaring public debt, and his answer to this is a new and improved version of the NHS app. It's him all over, really, isn't it? I mean, this complete empty vessel has no idea what he's doing.
It's Hancock-esque.
Absolutely. It's just, a few gimmicks. I mean, it's amazing how quickly this government has got to this point, but it's as if they've been in power for 10 years and are completely out of ideas. They're at the kind of Cohen's hotline period of their governments, if anyone remembers the tail end of John Major years when he was having to implement policies like that. That's where we've ended up, but after just over a year.
Yeah, it blows my mind how bad they are. Well, he's also going to deliver hard truths to the party faithful. He's going to say that beating reform... By the way, Nigel Farage totally lives rent-free in Keir Starmer's head, doesn't he? He said beating reform will require decisions that are not cost-free or easy, decisions that will not always be comfortable for our party. He'd tell what his little son are calling squeamish lefties in the Labour Party to get on board with uncomfortable and necessary decisions on migration, spending and welfare cuts. Well, they've already kowtowed to Labour backbenchers on welfare cuts. They didn't go through. Spending, I mean, here's another few hundred million to the public sector unions. He's also going to say there's nothing compassionate or progressive about letting illegal migrants cross the channel. Apparently he's staking his political life on bringing an end to the small boats crisis. Well, then... I can absolutely assure you then your political life is over. Meanwhile, Shabana Mahmood, the Home Secretary, she likened the marchers who went on the Unite the Kingdom march organised by Tommy Robinson. And I know people who've never been on a march in their lives who went on that march, who said the atmosphere was just lovely. And as I keep pointing it out because I was really shocked when I saw some of the speakers and some of the things they said. Some of them were good people, some of them were absolutely hideous. But she says, while not everyone chanted racist slogans, some did. Clear that in their view of this country, I have no place here. And she likened some of those marchers to the P bashers of the 60s and 70s, the Dares to the skinheads and P bashers of old. Is that a fair thing to say?
I think they've got this wrong. I understand that they want to make clear that they're not on the side of Tommy Robinson or some of the people who were addressing that march, who I think even some of the people who were there probably were slightly mystified by or certainly didn't agree with. But at the same time, it's quite clear that you do not get 150,000 people on the street if they're all
There's probably a lot more
front.
than that as well.
Exactly. So it's one of those things where I can understand why they want to denounce the elements within that movement who are quite clearly...
But don't we all?
Exactly, and I think everyone does anyway. I think it kind of goes without saying, but needing to recognise that the reason that you are seeing so much unrest in the country, whether it's protests outside hotels, whether it's people showing up to a demonstration in pretty unprecedented numbers for that kind of politics, it's not because there is runaway racism in the country, it's because people of all backgrounds, actually. That's
well,
one
again,
thing
there were lots of people, blacks, Asian
Mm-hmm.
people who were on those marches. You said, there was very friendly atmosphere.
Mm-hmm.
It's just the idea this was some white supremacist march is an absolute load of nonsense. It just wasn't.
Exactly. And that's not to let off scot-free, again, the people who led that march, who have, to put it lightly, a very checkered history. But you've got to recognise the mood of the country. And I think trying to place this in the frame as if it was exactly how it was, 50 years ago, it's just not accurate, and also I think risks alienating the very people that they want.
And
to
again, we're constantly this thing where like, no, it's not racist to say, oh, it is racist to say. They're just constantly in the middle of that. We're going to become an island of strangers. No, I didn't read the speech. I didn't mean that. Well, I sort of did do it. I mean, they don't know what they think about it, because fundamentally they're at a North London dinner party. You know, and they're just going, oh, well, I am a bit concerned about immigration. Oh, but not really, because I don't have a problem with brown people. No, really, but you do. And I mean, that's, they are, I know these people. I've met these people. I've gone to bloody dinner parties with these people. They are so uncomfortable in their own skins. They don't know what they think. And again, we were talking on the show a lot yesterday, this whole sort of, Nigel Farage being, and reform policies being racist. I mean, we had some front benchers blatantly talking about Nigel Farage being racist. Seriously, Nigel Farage, get the libel lawyers out, because you would absolutely win this one. It's absolutely outrageous people should go around saying that about you. I know for a fact he's not. I really do. But they throw around these words, and they don't realise that they're just, that word, I mean, this was far right, bigger, racist, doesn't even have any meaning anymore, because they've taken away the meaning of that. And by the way, Reform's policy on deportations doesn't even mention colour. There's no mention of race. It's utterly irrelevant to this debate. It's about numbers and it's about culture. So it's got sod all to do with that at all. One other thing that we're going to be hearing about today a lot is after Rachel Reeves' speech, basically preparing everyone for the worst. You know, this harsh global climate. That's what they said last time round. And yes, we've got the Donald Trump tariffs. I get that. That's been difficult. But we're not all working for steel exporting companies, are we? So let's stop the pretense of that. But basically planning not to raise the VAT rate, which is what they promised. They were very careful with their words, weren't they? But extending VAT to other things, including private healthcare. We're told that's going to hit 8 million people. It's part of that whole, VAT on school fees and VAT on healthcare. I mean, I've got private healthcare, through the company. I haven't had it for many, many years, but I mean, I know people who live in, working class backgrounds, who live in bungalows, who use their savings to spend hundreds of pounds on getting an MRI scan. They would have to wait months to get some, to find out what a problem was. And, I know lots of people who have used private healthcare who are not, by any stretch of the imagination, anywhere you could say rich or even average earners, who have done what they have to do for their family member. Often family members contributing to the cost for private treatment, because they simply can't face a wait on the NHS. I mean, I'm not quite sure that their class warfare on this issue is going to win many people over. No,
and it's also obviously not going to solve the economic problem. I mean, you have...
Like that on school fees.
Exactly. I mean, this government...
Drop in the ocean.
The reason they keep having to kind of shift around their policies and potentially, in this case, seriously kind of roll back on some of the pledges they made ahead of the last election is because of the fact that they're constantly chasing this black hole, which, obviously balloons in size in relation to external events. And so they end up doing things which are politically quite toxic or just quite mean-spirited or something which, at the very least, is not going to endear them to a certain section of the electorate. And then either having to U-turn on it again or, just sit back and express horror at the fact that actually it's barely touched the sides in terms of the economic picture. They're kind of constantly having to do things which make them look bad, but at the same time don't actually fix the fundamental problem, because they don't have a plan for growth. They don't have a plan.
There's no plan for
sorting
growth.
Out the
There's
public
no plan
finances.
for cutting. No plan for cutting the debt. No plan for cutting the spending. And actually, the only way you could actually really boost tax receipts would be to tax billions and millions of ordinary working people, because there are more of them by a long way than there are billionaires, and the billionaires will leave if you do it. It's going to be a great day at Labour Party conference, I think we can safely say.